Hi, I'm Yegi. I'm an entrepreneur and success coach who wants it all. Family, luxury, career, and the freedom to do whatever I want, whenever I want. And I'll do whatever it takes to get there. I created the Yegi Project to document my journey and inspire others to do the same. My mission is to change the world by influencing and leading others to do what they love and live fulfilled lives.
Hello. Welcome back to the Yegi Project. Today's honored guest is Janessa Borges, who is a Miami native, first-generation Cuban-American with an Ivy League education. She is determined to shake up the world, and I'm thrilled to interview her and get to know her. She has been referred to as a force of nature, and failure does not exist in her world. She believes that everything is an opportunity to learn and grow. And on top of that, she is a licensed therapist, business strategist, and a coach, and she has so much to offer to our community. Without further ado, please welcome Janessa and let her tell us her story and what she does currently.
Hey, Yegi. First and foremost, thank you so much for the generous invite to join you and your listeners. It is an honor. Thank you so much for sharing your platform.
Thank you so much for being here. We're excited to hear your story and see what you have to offer.
Oh my gosh. So you said a lot in the beginning. So I am a first gen, a Latina. So I know we have the first gen piece in common. And I am trained as a licensed clinical therapist. I'm a clinical social worker. I went to NYU and I've been practicing, age myself, about 18 years. And I've been in private practice for about 14. I love what I do and I love my patients, but in the journey, throughout the journey of learning all my clinical skills, I knew I never wanted to work for anybody else. And I realized while I was going and figuring everything out by myself, that there was nobody else. There were other men, there were other women, but I never found another first gen or another Latina to model after. And at that point I figured, I think I'm onto something here, and I have a successful business and I want to see other first gen Latinas have a successful business. So I want to share what I know. And so that's really where I've put a lot of my energy in growing, not just my business, but for me, it's growing a legacy. And it's really seeing other women, other first gen, other Latinas rise and not feel constricted by the world, glass ceilings, corporate America.
Wow.
I mean, just there's so much.
Even
Like
just
there's
being a woman, there's so
absolutely.
many limitations put on us. Wow. Okay, well, let's unpack that. Take us back. So how was it moving to this country? Tell us some of the struggles you had to go through and what you did to overcome them.
So this one's interesting. I was actually born in the US, right? So my husband and I always have this like first gen, second gen conversation. I was very lucky because I am the first generation born in the US. My parents came when they were fairly young from Cuba, but because of a bubble I think I grew in Miami, I kind of grew up in Little Cuba. And everything that I was raised in and listened to, everybody shared the same story. Like we were the first here, but our roots are so grounded in our culture and our morals and our belief system and everything that like I didn't know what a minority was until I left
Yes, you were
Miami.
stuck in your own almost community and bubble. And honestly, that's how I grew up here too.
Yes, but it's a huge bubble. It's a huge
Yeah.
bubble. And I think it's like a
And it's a
blessing.
culture shock when you realize, oh my God, there's more.
There's
Like, this is
so much
not the
more.
norm. There's so much more and so many options out there.
Yes, there's so much more. And so I went away to study when I was 17, and that's when it hit me. I was like, oh my God, wait, I'm a minority? Like, what is that? Like
Yeah, it's a culture
90,
shock.
oh my gosh, 90, I always say this, 98% of my high school was Hispanic and 99% of the 98 were Cuban. Like there's no diversity, and not in, I mean, I guess you can take it either way, but for me, it was beautiful. And I wish I had that for my kids. So life after that changed dramatically, to say the least.
Yeah, you almost got taken out of your shelter, your little community, but I bet it forced you to become the woman you are today, right? It helped you grow very strong to see that, hold on, I guess I'm a minority. First, this is such a shock, but whoa, like how do I navigate through this challenge. So what was your initial feelings and what did you do to kind of get empowered to take your own way, make your own path?
So I want to say it was a lot of inner conflict because again, I finally, I think it felt like I was pushed into this box that I didn't feel like I belonged in, right? So I was
Mm,
very, I am, not was, I am very proud of being Cuban and Hispanic. So for somebody to look at me different or not educated or not like well spoken, it was foreign to me and it was frustrating. And I think at that moment, I always knew I wanted to help people. That was a therapist part. But I think that's the moment the entrepreneur was born. The this is not accurate. This is not fair. I mean, and not just for myself as a woman or as a Latina, like for anything. Like even growing up, I was the first person that's like, if somebody looks different, it sounds different, that's fine. They're special. They're good enough. So I'm like the person in my house who would always defend everybody who didn't look or sound like us. And in that experience in college, it was this redefining moment of everybody else needs to know that they're capable of anything. If anybody says no to them, they're wrong. And I am like determined to have people fully live out their dreams.
wow, that's so powerful and that's so beautiful. It's so nice to see a success story that we can share with our audience and inspire other young Latinas to do the same. Now, for your maybe what, when you moved away, what were you, like 18 for college, or what was the age?
I was ahead of the game. So we can blame it on my mom who put me into school super early. So by the time I graduated, I had just turned 17.
Awesome.
And
Okay. So the 17 and 18-year-old self for you or any other young women, Latinas that are looking to kind of break out of that box they're put in, what advice would you give them? What are your top 3 things you would give them to encourage them to do whatever they like?
okay, Yegi, so I'm going to have you clarify for me, right? There's 2 questions. The first part of me, the therapist thinks of like, okay, women, or then the other piece of me thinks of like, or a Hispanic woman. So are we looking at the world around you and their expectations or our culture and those expectations? Because they're
So
different.
culture. So we are going to focus, just to clarify, we're going to focus on empowering minority women, and specifically we'll mention Latino women in this podcast for this episode, since that's what you're an expert in. But anybody can benefit from the episode, obviously. Any minority woman, even minority men that feel like they are a minority. So we'll just say minority Latina women, but I think everybody can get
Everybody
something
can
out of it.
relate.
So
Absolutely.
yes, so let's focus on that.
So being put into a box. So as a Latina woman growing up in the house, there were a lot of things that I carry with me to this day and I value incredibly, like work ethic, morals, being kind to people, being supportive, community. Like one of the things my dad always taught us is we may not have everything, but there's people that have less than we do. So just be
Mm,
happy with what you have and then offer
appreciative.
when you can. Absolutely. The first thing I would say is take the good, which is what I did, and then like let's rewrite the not so great stuff, right? So many things, right, with culture. Usually in culture overall, all cultures, I think, men are the powerful, the elite, the patriarchs, the ones who earn more money. The women are the ones that have to like tend home and take care of kids. And if we do both, it's usually doing both without giving up anything else.
Do you have kids? I'm just curious.
I do. I do. I have my son is 7. He'll be 8 in January, and my daughter is 9.5. So they're 18 months apart. So in my house, there is no boy and girl. There is everybody helps, everybody cleans up, everybody. There's no gender like divided roles. So,
Yeah,
and I
no,
think that's
no,
part of the
each role, no gender has a specific role as far as like old traditional things that maybe we were raised with.
absolutely. So the contribution is we treat you the same, you treat each other the same, and we're going to be equal. And I think that's part of it. Like, don't fall into, unfortunately, right, throughout life, I feel like there's so much blending of, I always think of like coach and then therapy, but I'm like, they're really blended. That you have to understand that not everybody has the same experience, the same story, the same traumas. And we keep what serves us, and then we have to amend and adapt and pivot to what doesn't. So I would say is don't stay grounded in what doesn't serve you, would be the first thing.
Okay.
Don't let anybody tell you no ever.
Okay.
And no matter what you want, if you work hard enough and you're consistent, you can make it happen.
I love that. That's amazing advice. Thank you. Now, I'm going to ask you a real question from an entrepreneur mom myself. And I know a lot of our listeners can relate. So this may be a therapy question. I'm sure it has a lot of background of how we were raised, but also our human nature. But I just want your thoughts. I don't think there is one way of thinking about this, but I found it very difficult. So I am very much like you. I think nothing can stop me. I can do anything I put my mind to. I had to work really, really hard to break through from my first generation. I was actually not born here. I was illegal for a while. Yeah, I could just we'll leave it at that. So I went through a lot of troubles to build who I am, to be where I am today. So I was very determined to be successful in my business, in the workforce, and all of that. But when I started having kids, naturally my energy changed. When you're an overachiever and you want the best, you want to also be the best mom, right? You want to do everything as good as you can. Like you said, help them learn about that gender roles don't exist, that you could do anything, you want to empower your girls. So I started shifting my focus on learning a lot more how to be like a good parent, right? Or like an ideal parent to raise my kids. And I saw my business kind of taking the back seat. And we always talk about having both, but I think I want to have this realistic conversation with you and see what you think is, yes, we can have both. I feel like I do have both, but I still struggle. It's like, okay, that balance, whatever you put your energy in, of course, that's what grows. But now I'm tempted to put so much of my time and energy with my kids because they're my kids. I love them. And is that my mother in me? I was curious, how is that balance for you? And have you seen like your business kind of taking a backseat when you became a mother?
So I always wanted to be a mom. In fact, our kids, we share with them often that we went through a lot to have them. Like science was involved, doctors were involved. So I really, really wanted that. And I also couldn't separate my need for everything you mentioned, being an overachiever, wanting my own business. It was really hard. Yegi, I'm not going to lie. It was really hard. And there are moments where it's really hard. And then I remember there's so many layers to this. Like everything has so many layers. So the first thing I always remember when I was building my business is if you treat your business like a hobby, it will pay you like a hobby.
I see.
And before we have our kids, our business are our babies.
Yeah.
So do you have one or two?
3.
Oh, you beat me. God bless you. I was like, two's good. Okay. So here's the thing. And this is going to correlate, right? I was so in love. My daughter's the oldest. I was so in love with her. And like I said, my son is through IVF. So like we really wanted him, right? We wanted both of them. And when I was pregnant with him, we were super happy. And at one point when it was close to like giving birth, I said, oh my God, like I had this like feeling. And I told my husband, this is going to sound horrible, but how am I supposed to love someone else? Like I love her so much. I like breathe her in. There's no room in my heart for somebody else. And he told me something and he didn't miss a beat. And he said, you'll find that your heart will find the space for him. And let me tell you,
that's going to make me emotional.
my son, my daughter's amazing. She's brilliant. She's strong. She's strong. She's like me. He is the sweetest, most gentle, cuddliest. And I tell him every day, I never imagined loving a little boy as much as I love you. My heart found the space. And what I'm saying here is there's a parallel. I don't think we have to love one child less to love the other more.
And our business is the other child.
It's another child. It's not a stepchild. It's a child. And I think it's the same way I had to learn how to go from 1 to 2. And you learn from 1 to 2 to 3. Do you love any, and I know your answer, do you love any of your kids less than the other?
Absolutely not.
It's not even a thought, right? And it's hard. Like I couldn't transition until I became a mom. And I'm glad you asked this question because it's not always easy. The same way, like it's not always easy to be a mom. But there's more for me than that. My business isn't just for me.
It's a bigger purpose.
It's not even that. It's for my kids. I want them to know. So one of my favorite moments with my kids was my mom's been working for the same wonderful man for, oh my God, 40 years, almost as long as I've been born. And one day he invited us to go on a cruise, and my kids went, and I'm telling them, oh, grandma's boss invited us. And my son goes to me, who's your boss? Oh, Yagi. I don't have a boss. What do you mean you don't have a boss? I don't have a boss. And you know what he told me? I don't want to have a boss either.
Wow. Yeah,
so
they learn.
They learn. So my business is for my kids. It gives me the freedom to set my schedule. I don't miss anything. I go to field trips. I hide Easter eggs. I go to book fairs. I miss nothing.
I love that so much. And I love that we're talking about it, because I think that's such a common misconception that if you're an entrepreneur and you're really like set your mind to achieving so much, you ignore your family. I think a lot of people don't think it's possible. But yes, I do have to agree with you on that. I am a very, very present mom. I'm still finding a way to like not be so obsessed with being so present with my kids and give my business a little bit more of my energy again. But it is very possible to do both. It is challenging, like we said, but I love what you had to say about it being as your other child. And that's kind of helping me now. I'm like, I didn't think about that, because we also get the mom guilt. A lot of people ask me about the mom guilt. They say, like when you're spending so much time at work, how do you not get the mom guilt? And I love what you said is your work is for your kids, not only financially to provide for them, but to lead with example, show them what it takes to be an entrepreneur, of breaking through barriers, right? And to also, like you said, have more time and freedom in order to spend with them. Now, being an entrepreneur doesn't necessarily mean being a workaholic. I think that's another conversation we need to have.
No. Well, Maggie, can I pause you? Sorry. I want to add to what you're saying. So yes, write that down and we'll get back to it right away. To give you a further example of the modeling for the kids, right? My kids are my employees. They're on my payroll.
Tell us more. Tell us more.
Okay, well, that conversation's for, I believe you've already met and interviewed her. Gabby Rincon is my financial strategist.
Oh, nice. I did.
Yes, you did. I've been checking everything out. Both of my children are my payroll. So they earn their money. They're learning how to save their money, and my business pays them. So when I started my YouTube channel, they knew more than I did. Oh, mom, that's too short. Oh, mom, that's too long. Oh, mom, you need this. Oh, you have another subscriber. They're my biggest cheerleaders. I've spoken in Orlando last year and this year. Last year, I went to California to speak October, around this time. Next month, I'll be in Texas speaking. And I was just invited to go speak at UC Berkeley in April of next year. They come with me.
Congratulations on that. That's amazing.
But that's what I'm saying. I bring them for the journey. So I don't just work and close the door and not pay attention. They are part of the journey, because I want them to do whatever they want. And I want them to know that the sky, there's no limit. The limit is the limit you set for yourself.
That's awesome. 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 Well, thank you again for sharing that. That's so inspiring. Now let's go back to the challenge, right? A lot of people, like we talked about, barriers, find a barrier and they use it as an excuse, or find the reason and they use it as an excuse to not take their next step. Have you faced any challenge or any barrier that you felt like held you back? And what did you do to overcome it in order to get to your next step?
Barriers are everywhere if you want to pay attention to them. Right? If you wake up and you're having a bad day, right, then everything seems like a bad day, and suddenly there's traffic, and then you drop something, and then you break something. But if you look at the rain and you're like, oh, it's pretty, but it's going to clear up and it's watering my flowers, right? It's perspective. So yes, there were gazillion struggles, right? I was super young when I started. Can you imagine going to a therapist who was 23 years old? Are you a mom? Are you married? What do you know about life?
Yeah, so honestly, I can relate on that too. I was a student counselor at a university when I was in my very early 20s and people wouldn't take me seriously. I had to dress a certain way. I forced my hair. I couldn't wear it light because they didn't take me as seriously. So it was very sad, but these stereotypes and everything, even with the age, with your age, really, really also play a role. But
Absolutely.
I'm glad you brought that up. And when whoever is super young and wants to achieve a lot or have specific roles, there are ways. Like Janessa said, there are barriers, but we're going to talk about what to do about those barriers. So sorry to cut you
Absolutely.
off there. So
No,
go
no, you're
ahead.
fine. So I would say that access to resources is a really real big thing, right? As an advocate, I keep going, I switch back and forth between my therapist. There's sometimes that I'm fighting with insurance for myself and my kids. And I get so angry, and I don't even get angry about my situation. I'm like, no, but you're wrong. And how is somebody who doesn't know how to fight the system going to address this? Like, I get
Uh,
viscerally mad for everybody else. Discrimination, bias. I mean, again, I went from this bubble to I now live in a very specific area of the country that is very well to do and very well informed and is not diverse. So
mm,
when I moved to where I live now, every single doctor was very pregnant with my son. Every single doctor asked me if I was on assistance.
wow.
Every single one. They assumed because I was Spanish, I didn't have an education, I didn't have a job, and I needed government assistance. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with needing that, but the fact that they were assuming that that was my
Yeah.
case,
It's
that's huge.
heartbreaking.
It is really, and I think that also, like, I think there's moments in life that were struggles. So you're saying barriers. I think they were lessons that added even more gumption and more intensity to my mission to help other first gen and Latinas. I actually was in my membership today, and we did group coaching and goal setting for the month. And one of the first things I said today, Yegi, was, all right, tell me what you haven't been able to accomplish that you want to, why you haven't, and then I want you to come up with solutions for how you're going to solve it, because anything else is an excuse. I don't want excuses. I want solutions. No excuses, only solutions. And that's how I live everything.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. So powerful. Now, you mentioned your membership. It is called Latinas Empowering Latinas. Can you talk a little bit about that for our audience or our listeners who are interested in joining? How can they do that? And what is it all about? How much commitment does it take?
So this was me trying to really align everything that is within me and me constantly wanting to pour back. And so figuring out kind of like different tiers of services you can offer, right? My coaching is very high touch, high contact, very high price. But for me, giving back was worth so much more. So my membership is a way to help a lot of people for a lot less that they invest in, while still being honoring my time and what I offer, right? So this community is a platform. I hate to say Facebook. It's similar to Facebook in the way that it sort of looks, insofar that you can access it 24/7. We have one live weekly event. You don't have to go if you don't want to, but there's constant motivation, accountability, goal setting, feedback, group coaching, like there's so much. The VIP members have an opportunity to actually share and collaborate with one another and promote their services. The beautiful way that I'm trying to really show up is there's more than enough room for all of us to be successful. Let's focus on collaborating and supporting one another instead of competing. Like, I don't believe in competing. There's no way.
Same,
Yep. I can be in a
same.
room, in a house full of therapists or a convention full of therapists that I will be in Texas, and I will feel super confident because I know that I'm myself and you're yourself, and what you bring to the table is different than what I bring to the table. And we serve
Yeah.
people in different ways.
And there's enough people that need help in whatever or need the services that we offer that can go around. So we all need to just focus on ourselves and our clientele and our goals and leave the competition to themselves.
Yes, essentially, let them fight with each other. And I also want to add to what you're saying. You said, there's more than enough space for all of us. In addition to that, everybody has a different take on something. Like, how many places in the world sell pizza or cheeseburgers? Is there
Yeah.
nobody
A
selling it
lot.
because somebody else is doing it already? No. There's different sauces and different styles and different bread and gluten-free and a different atmosphere. There's so many ways to stand apart. So if you ever have an idea or
Even
a
for
dream,
location, like you said, we're all different. Even location and who you are, different people connect
absolutely.
with different people.
Absolutely. Personality is huge.
All right. So, as far as competition, that's your number one advice. Don't worry about it. Focus on yourself. There's enough to go around.
Let them fight with each other. Let them say whatever they're going to say. You know, one of the things that I've seen a lot happen is people being very critical, and you'll never find another supportive, successful entrepreneur criticizing another one. If they're
You're right.
criticizing you, they're envious.
You're right. You're right. I have to agree on that one. So that's some food for thought for our audience out there. If you find yourself in a pickle, think about all these things that we talked about. Is it really you getting in your own way, or is it somebody else that you're criticizing? But thank you so much again for sharing that. We'll link everything below about the community. So if people want to join, they can. Now my next question to you is kind of a fun question, just on top of your head. If you can change one thing in the world with a magic wand, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
This is going to sound so cheesy. For everybody just to be kind to each other.
Love that. The world would be such a better place if we could do that.
If everybody was just nice to each other, like if we didn't see color and we didn't see difference, and it's unfortunate, some people have that gift and some people don't, but if the people that didn't could like just see everybody equally, like how beautiful.
Yeah.
Like, wars, disagreements, conversations.
Yeah, be a much better place. All right. Awesome. Now, the next fun question is, if we are to follow you around for a day or a week, how do you manage your time, and what does your day look like? What does a life in Janessa Borges look like?
This goes back to the mom balance. Are you back?
Yes, we're back.
Okay. It goes back to the mom balance a little bit. I'm a huge fan of time blocking. Do you know Marie Forleo by chance?
I don't.
She's phenomenal. She's like bi-coastal. She's New York, California. She is an entrepreneur. She is fierce, and I love her. I've taken all of her courses. Like, she's amazing. She's been on Oprah. Anyway, I took one of her courses called. I'm sorry. She's an entrepreneur teaching other entrepreneurs how to do it. So she has B School, which is like her version of a business school. She has Time Genius, which is all about managing your time as an entrepreneur and how to create space and not be in the hustle. She has Copy Cure, which is all about copywriting for your business. She's phenomenal. One of the things I learned in her course, Time Genius, was there's always time for what's most important. It's priorities. So if we can shift and find a way to make the time that we need to get things done, we don't forget to feed our kids, right? That's not an option, right? People forget to eat sometimes, but eventually you need to eat and you need to drink water. You need to go to the bathroom. Like, we don't not have time for that. You can't not gas up your car. If not, you won't go anywhere. So if you think about it, everything that needs to get done gets done. Everything else is just
kind of a universal law.
Yeah, but everything else is just us trying to figure out how to get it done. So I'm a huge fan of time blocking. So reprioritizing, looking at where you're spending your time, turning off alerts, and time blocking. Like, I am off every Friday to Monday. I work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Those days are for me.
I love that.
And on those days, I have...
Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. Fridays are my day. The weekends are for my kids. Monday is for like all the stuff I don't want to do on the weekends and take away from my kids.
Wow, I love that so much. Awesome. So that's kind of how your day looks like. Mondays are the days you get everything else done. It's you, the kids are in school. Tuesday through Thursday, you really focus on your work. Fridays is your me day to recharge. Yeah, to recharge so you can show up better. Weekends are the kids. Actually, my schedule's pretty similar. I love it.
We found like this balance. And what I love about that is Friday, I'm intentional. So if anything's happening, like if there's something for the kids on Monday or Friday, I don't need to look at my calendar. Tuesday, Thursday, my clients, I'm not in. Monday, I'm not in. I'm not in. There's no thinking. So it also takes away some of the guessing. You've already blocked out that time. I also use our weekends to get getaways, to like little plug-in, because mental health is important. You have to take care of yourself. So again, my business allows me to have the flexibility to go. We go to Disney a lot, like every month.
Yeah, you're in Florida.
Yes. So, I mean, everything is built in. So it's finding that balance and prioritizing. And if you don't like the way something feels, change it.
Yes, and what are your thoughts about your mental well-being and your attitude versus productivity? Now, the reason why I want to talk about that is because obviously, if you think about it, like 3 full days just focused on work, to some people doesn't seem enough, right? They're like, you're lazy or you have it easy, you got lucky, blah, 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 blah. But it took a lot to get there. I know it. I know it took a lot to get there. And we're always struggling and fighting with seeing what's the best balance to have in our current life. And that changes from month to month based on what we need, what our kids need, what the business needs. But I think a lot of the things is if we get to a good mental state where we're happy with who we are, what we're doing, we have a vision, then we can, within those 3 days, we could be more productive even for a whole week, for 7 days. So that's kind of what I've learned. Anytime I'm going through like a struggle time, I'm stressed about something, I find myself literally wasting time. I could even be sitting at my desk, but I'm so preoccupied with all this clutter in my head where I'm literally wasting time. I could be sitting here all week, 7 days, 12 hours, but nothing will get done. But other days when I show up and I'm like, okay, I feel good, I literally could get done a whole day's work in like 2 hours. Now, my question to you for a therapist and as a coach, co-mingling the mental health versus, I guess, time management, how do we get to that place where we show up better in order to be more productive in less time so we can get more out of life, more fun days out of life?
Okay, so people either love me or hate me, and that's okay. And this is why you have to figure it out for yourself. If it's not working, you have to change it. So you're right. When I started, I worked 7 days a week. I worked 2 jobs at a time. I worked my full-time job, and then I worked on my license hours that I needed, and then I had my practice. I've done 12-hour days, and I've done 3-hour days. It just depends. It was figuring out what I needed. Like you just mentioned, like once you had kids, that looked different, right? You talked about in the beginning as well, like how you're trying to kind of get back into your business and still be like this awesome mom. Well, just like when we have a newborn, right? Sometimes our babies need a little more from us than others, right?
Yeah.
The newborn needs a little more, or maybe there's a different stage or regression and they're sleeping less or they're sick and they need something. So it's about balance, right? But there's no solution. It's throughout different chapters of my business and my life, I've adjusted. I've had longer days, less days. I've had shorter days, more days. It's whatever works for you in that chapter of your life. And nobody should ever answer that for you. You can look for suggestions, try. And here's the beauty of being your own boss. You can change it. You don't have to explain to anybody why.
Right, it's so simple.
Yeah, you just change it.
Awesome. Now, talking about changing it, and it sounds like you're really big on kind of checking in with yourself, see what's working, what's not, and making a change. Don't sit down and cry about it. Do something about it. Do you have any?
You can still cry. Just
Okay.
You can cry. You can let it out. You need to let it out. But we're not going to marinate in the moping. We're going to change it.
All right, just take your moments, do your thing, cry, vent, yell, but then do something about it.
Yes. Eat your ice cream, binge your Netflix, and then get to work.
Awesome. Now, do you have a system or kind of like a step-by-step guide of how you check in with yourself or how you tell your clients to check in with themselves to see what's working, what's not working, and what can our audience take away from that practice?
I think a lot of times, again, depending on culture, what we're used to, expectations, family, our body and our mind and our heart intuitively know what we need. It's when we start feeling sick or we get a headache or we don't feel well or we physically get sick that we do something about it. So all the pieces of us work together to let us know when we need something. What we are wired to do, unfortunately, after birth, is we're wired to ignore what we need to people please.
And that's what we're conditioned to do from a very young age.
So the first thing is to realize how you've been conditioned, what's not serving you, and to rewrite the script. So our brain is actually, there's something called neuroplasticity that, I'm not a scientist, this is not my specialty, but we can literally retrain and reshape our brain by new habits, by new thought process. So if something is not serving you, if you're not sleeping well, if you're stressed, if you're getting migraines every day, if your color is off, if you're not enjoying time anymore, those are signs. Those are signs from your body, from your mind, from your heart. If you don't feel fulfilled, if you don't feel motivated, if you wanted your kids and then suddenly you're not feeling the same thing, you're not feeling as enamored with your business, you need to look at that and reassess, reprioritize, tweak.
Yeah.
And if you don't, my favorite, one of my favorite things is when you fly, they always say, if there's an emergency, put your mask on first. And everybody's like, why? My kids? Well, because if you pass out, you can't help your kids. And it's the same thing in everything. You have to take care of yourself to show up as a better boss, as a better owner, as a better creative, as a better parent, as a better spouse. If I'm not feeling good, especially with the work that I do, I have nothing left. You don't want to talk to me when I'm not good. I have nothing left. Right? You're getting scrapped.
No, I definitely agree. I definitely agree. So that's why it's so important.
And it's realizing when that's not so much like we're not worth it to anybody. I usually use that to shift, especially for moms. But if you're not feeling good, how good are you showing up? If you want to be a good mom and you're not taking care of yourself, what are you showing by example? And what quality of mom are you showing? You're there, but are you present? You're there, but are you loving? You're there, but how is your interaction? So in order to sustain the life that you want to, and we're talking to overachievers, right? We're talking about people that are trying to do things differently. You need to give yourself grace, see what's happening, take time for yourself. Don't come up with excuses. Like really look at things. And we change. Sometimes maybe your business doesn't serve you anymore. Maybe the style of business doesn't serve you anymore. Maybe you need to tweak your business or find another business that allows you the balance that you need so you can be a parent. It's different for everybody, but you have to be honest with yourself. You have to take inventory.
Now, a lot of people, or lately, a good practice is to sit down and journal to kind of get it all out there and see what's really going on inside. Is that something you recommend? Or if, let's say, my body's telling me something's off, I'm getting sick all the time, or I'm losing sleep, or I'm just not feeling like excited about my business anymore. If I'm getting any sign from my body, what's the first step I can take to kind of like start figuring out what's really going on inside?
The first thing is not to ignore it, right? Because we're used to, again, like shoving that down. I love journaling. A lot of my clients hate journaling. They roll their eyes. So if you don't like to journal, what you could do is you can take your phone, right? We're always typing, open up your notes and just write words. Tired, headache, no water, miserable. You don't have to write a book. And put a date or make a new note on a different date so it's saved. Like it doesn't have to be complicated. But I think what happens is when we're not paying attention, kind of like when we, child therapy is very similar. I tell people like when you're drinking, you're hanging out, you kind of lose your full focus of filter. When you can free write, like I don't even like to tell my patients what to write about. I keep it super gentle. And they're like, tell me more. I'm like, no, just do this. I give them one line. And see what comes up for you. I don't want to tell you what's going to come up for you. You tell me. And then in there is your truth. And if you do it often enough, you'll see a pattern. And you'd be amazed. There's nothing cooler than setting your goals and then looking back a year later and saying, oh my God, I did that. Or, oh my God, I didn't.
That is very satisfying.
Yes. Or, oh my God, I didn't. But you know what? I had my baby. Or I didn't get to write my book, but I spoke 6 times in 6 different states.
That's wonderful.
Grace, reflection, and always you have to be anchored with your purpose and what's important to you. And don't allow yourself, I know this is really hard and it's easier to say than to do, but don't allow others to dictate what your life should look like or what it should sound like.
Oof, that is a very, very good point. I struggle with that a lot, seeing it on a lot of people, because we are sold, literally, we are sold that this is the life that we should want. We should have luxurious thing. Our goal should be to have a lot of material things. That's what success looks like. Look at the celebrities, you see all this, and I hate that so much that is what's sold to us. But at the end of the day, these businesses of luxury goods are literally trying to sell their product. So I think it's important to talk about that. Yeah, it's marketing.
It's marketing.
it's important to talk about that because that may not be what you want. You're just kind of conditioned to want that. And you need to really sit down and think about that, right? It's what do you really want?
So Yegi, if I asked you that, what do you really want? What would your answer be?
I've thought about this for a long time, but I mean, in what area? Just in my life?
In life and business?
Well, currently my goal with my life is to get my business back to where it used to be, to a place where I could step away fully and I can go travel the world with my kids, doing almost like homeschooling in every different country to learn culture. It's something I've always wanted to do just for fun, but that's my like big goal right now that meshes personal and business. But of course, I would need to break that down to many little goals to raise my sales to a place to hire a certain amount of employees in certain areas in order to be able to fully step away. I've stepped away in the past, so I know it's possible and I've done it. It's been amazing, but maybe I stepped away for a little too long.
But that's that balance piece, right? How to have that built-in breath room and live life and still not abandon the business baby.
Exactly. So I did have all my kids really back to back. So it's a good excuse to kind of abandon my firstborn that has been very, it's old enough it could stand on its own, but now it needs a little more guidance. So
hypothetically, right? So I'm going to this is what I do in sessions.
Yeah, let's do it.
I'm going to challenge you, right? So this is not judgment at all. This is like if we had little people around us that are not nice saying us things, right? What if somebody said, you're not educated enough to teach your kids? How are you going to protect them? What about the medical system? How are you going to have insurance? How do you keep them safe? How won't you get mugged? What if you get murdered? If somebody starts planting seeds of doubt with you, how do you counter that? Or do you doubt yourself?
For me personally, I don't doubt myself. I've worked on myself enough where I'm confident that I could literally do anything I put my mind to. I've gone through enough trouble, enough struggle, enough life tests in order to know that no matter what's in front of me, I can overcome it. So that took a lot of time, a lot of problem solving, a lot of putting myself outside of my comfort zone in order to get there. But if you were to ask me 10 years ago, I would say, oh my God, yes, I would start doubting myself because I'm not confident enough. This confidence had to be built. That's my answer.
Yes. So you're right. So both versions of you, right? The one that had confidence and the one that is fully anchored is my word, confident. There's no doubt. So that's like if somebody says, murder somebody, you're like, I'm not going to murder somebody, right? Like there's some things in life that we just automatically say like, no, you're crazy. But there's so many other things that we allow people or society or industry to affect. So when you have that confidence, when you build that confidence, when you are sitting in that room with that journal by yourself, allowing yourself to know what you want and what you value, you're building your anchor. And once you have that anchor, that's the answer, Yegi. The answer to your original question.
I love that. Thank you for doing that with me because look, now that I've said that, I do want to be very clear. There has been moments where I'm doubting myself. And at that moment, if I'm in a doubty mood and you ask me the same question, I would have probably said, oh, I don't know. I might think, am I going to run out of money? Like, are people going to not do as great of a job in their positions if I'm not managing them, So I think it has a lot to do with continuous work because I do want to be real. It's not like, okay, I've come to this confident person and nothing can bring me down now. No, still life brings me down at certain points, but I do get up much quicker because I've worked on myself. And there's different things, right? And I loved what you said about sitting and thinking about it. And you know what else comes up to mind? And I want to know what you think. Lately, a little bit of a struggle I've been having is like, okay, what do I really want? Because my vision and my goal has been so clear for so many years. And it was mainly just my first baby, which was the business. But along having kids back to back, I really enjoy doing life with them, right? So now it's like, what do I really want? Do I want to give up some of the luxury for the time with the kids? Do I have to give up some of the luxury? Can I have it all, So then it comes to a point where, like you said, we really need to sit down and regroup and be like, okay, this is what I wanted, but it's something's telling me something's off. Let me sit down and figure out what is it, you know, what do I really want? So I'm glad we're having this conversation.
Do you remember, I think we're sort of around the same age group, might be a little older. Remember like Cosmopolitan on the test they used to have, like find out your favorite whatever, or even like Instagram.
My God,
okay.
yes.
So if I told you city or country, what would you tell me?
Wait, say it again. What was the question?
City or country?
Country.
Okay. Beach or lake?
Lake.
Salt or fresh?
Fresh.
Okay. Snow or sun?
Sun.
Okay. Do you know how you instinctively answered those questions?
Yeah.
All of us have that.
Uh-huh.
And you need to figure out, when it comes to the bigger questions, you still have that instinct, but it's so noisy around us. And there's so many distractions, and the distractions can be the finer luxuries or more vacations or whatever it is.
Social media.
Social media. You need to sit in that space, because those answers you just gave me, everything you're trying to figure out in between, they're in there. You just need to silently sit in that space and figure out, what is it that I want? And one of the biggest questions I ask all of them, and you know what? Everything does interlap, because I end up coaching or working as a therapist for a lot of entrepreneurs, is I ask them, at what cost?
We all need a therapist. I think everybody needs to accept that fact that we all need therapists all the time.
Yes.
Like, we got to get with this program.
Yes. Right? So I always ask, at what cost? So at what cost does the thing you want cost you? And is it worth it for you? Is it aligned with it? Right? So like, we send our kids to a very great school, but it's expensive and it's 40 minutes away. We live in a great area. It's super safe. And the elementary school is a 2-minute drive from my house. But we choose to drive 40 minutes to give our kids something. So at what cost? Money, miles, time, stress, sometimes in the car, right? But the cost is priceless. My kids' future, the people they're around, the balance of academic, social, faith is everything. So I will drive 2 hours for my kids.
I love that. That's very, very, very good example.
So
well, I could talk to you for hours.
I know.
And I just realized the time we have to end this, but yes. I will love to do a part 2 in the near future, just to see updates and how everything's going. But since we are short on time, if you can please tell our listeners your last words of encouragement and where can they find you?
Oh my gosh. Whatever dream you have in your heart, you are meant to have it, and you're meant to give that gift to other people. So don't let anything stop you. Don't quit. Keep going.
Beautiful. And where can people find you?
I'm easy. Janessa Borges. So Janessa.Borges on Instagram, and Latinas Empowering Latinas on YouTube, on podcasts, in the membership. I am everywhere you need to find me. There's no excuse not to find me, because I am serving up and dishing everywhere.
And we'll link everything below. And thank you so much again, Janessa. It's been a pleasure. But until next time, have a wonderful rest of your day. And thank you to our listeners for always tuning in. It's always so nice to share this space with you. Make sure you go ahead and ask, comment, get involved with the community. It really takes a village to keep ourselves at our best. So until next time, bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. Please rate and review this podcast. Follow and engage with us on social media under the Yegi Project. And if you're interested in being a guest, email info@theyegiproject.com. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes.